So, what are we doing today?
Well, I reckon we're going to do some recap.
Recap? Why would we do that?
That's what they pay me to do.
They pay you?
They don't pay you?
No.
Sounds like you deserve it.
Oh, no. Hello everybody and welcome back to Double Dip Draft. I am Cabral, coach of the Hatchlinging Age of Slashers. Joining me today is...
Spood, coach of the Southtown Sand Slashers.
You are the coach of the Southtown Sand Slashers. And what a week 3 it was. Some crazy matches this week.
Yeah, the storylines in the Pearl Division, man, are looking nice, looking interesting. A lot of cool intrigue, you know?
The rankings are really interesting, but we'll get to that a little later. Quite a few really fun matches. First one out the gate, though, is Mass of the Minneapolis Magnezones versus Firebolt of the Minnesota Magikarps. We got the two Great Lakes region-themed teams combating each other.
They got it set to M for Mini. You know,
Minnesota,
Minneapolis.
Yeah.
When they should have had it set to W.
For winning.
For winning.
Yeah.
Hey, this is a storied rivalry, actually. One of only a few. Mass, you know, being that Mass is relatively new, he's really only played most people like once, maybe twice. At this point, this is his third time fighting Firebolt.
This is Mass's third season as well, and each time, I believe they've had a speed tie for the last 2 times they fought each other.
Yes, specifically, Firebolt has won those speed ties exactly when it mattered. And it was literally like 50-50 speed ties that determined the game. I remember it was a Scarf Transform Mew that like transformed into Firebolt's Drapion, and then they speed tied, but Firebolt Scarf Drapion won.
Yep.
And I don't remember the exact scenario in the game before that, but it was the same deal where it was like a 50-50 on who would go first. And it just so happened that Firebolt won on that speed tie. So each of their games have gone absolutely down to the wire.
Yep.
But they've played enough times and they've been close enough that this is like it's a very storied matchup. They both really want to beat the other. Mass came into this at 2-0. Firebolt came into this at 1-1. Firebolt having previously lost to Lynn. Mass having barely clinched it versus Doodled in a very controversial game in week 2. So it's really popping. You know, week 3 is when you really start to get an idea of what your season looks like. You know, if you're 1-2 or 0-3 or 3-0, like the numbers really start mattering by week 3. And so for Mass, you know, going into week 4 at 3-0 would be huge. For Firebolt, making up that Lynn loss here, especially versus somebody like Mass, who he's very likely to be in direct competition with for a playoff spot, that's also huge.
Yeah, it definitely is. One of the things, too, is I was talking to Aurora about this as well. Week 3 is big. You start to get an idea. But you're still not at a loss. Even people at 0-3 can still come back with 4-3 if they keep winning their last matches, depending on circumstances. And it just depends on differential as well. I think, personally, week 4 is a little bit bigger of a teller for myself in seeing where people are going to be sitting towards the end of the season.
I'd agree with that. I think basically for me, I feel like the first 2 weeks are kind of a throwaway. Whereas I feel like by week 3, you can't really throw that away too much. Because, you know, if you want to go 4-3 and you're 0-3 at the end of this week, you can't lose anymore. You know, you've spent all of your losses too early. And also, that's also considering that 4-3 does not always mean you get into playoffs.
No, it does
There are
not.
4-3 records that don't make it. So.
I've also made the playoffs at 3-4. So
that's true. Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily like determine or kill your season, but I think it starts to get more important. I think the stakes start to rise a little bit.
It's more of an uphill battle as well at that point. If you already have low enough differential at this point in the season and you're still at an 0-3, you still have opportunities to climb if you have low enough differential to make a comeback there, but you got to work at it to make it really pan out for you. Looking at the teams, though, we have Vaporeon making another comeback with Mass. Brings it like every week, I'm pretty sure, at this point.
I have a feeling, Vaporeon's going to be a staple every single time.
It's too good. Gengar and Alolan Dugtrio also showing up, and Celesteela, which I think has been here to every match so far too. We do.
You know what's interesting? Firebolt is missing his tier 1.
He is actually missing his tier 1. You're absolutely right.
Firebolt generally has Tapu Lele in the back, but for this match, it just kind of panned out like, Lele struggles versus a lot of Celesteela sets. It obviously struggles versus Alolan Dugtrio. So it makes sense why it wouldn't come. And also consider that there's like a weird amount of base 110s. Mass has 2, that being Gengar and Alolan Dugtrio. Firebolt has Alolan Raichu.
Yeah.
So a lot of speed type potential.
Yeah, definitely a lot of speed type potential here, but both of their teams looking a little scary, and I think with that being said, we should probably go ahead and get started on this match.
Yeah, let's have a look.
Dugtrio Lola coming out, most likely set up rocks, I imagine. Usually a pretty good staple for things like that. Oh, nope. Okay, click an Earthquake.
Yeah. I mean, you can expect this is usually going to be like Sash with rocks, maybe like Sucker Punch, Memento, Iron Head. Stuff like that. And especially, I think Mass isn't going to be that afraid of just letting it die, since there's no longer, a really scary fairy type that he needs the speed for.
Yeah.
And since he's revealed that he's not, he's already burned his Sash and he knows he's not Scarf. So it's kind of worthless versus Mega Aerodactyl, which is the only other thing it really threatens. I guess it would threaten Glastrier, but not hard enough to not get one shot back.
Yeah. Masculine Protect, not sure what this will do. Not that it can really do too much to Vaporeon in the first place.
Yeah. So Firebolt's team hates rocks. Aerodactyl takes 25, Turtonator takes 25, Cramorant with no boots takes 25, Glastrier takes 25.
Well, I mean, what Pokemon gets rid of rocks, though?
Well, Cramorant does have Defog. It's already shown it.
Oh my gosh, you're right. It does have Defog. Wait a second.
But Firebolt is content to kind of force the Vaporeon to leave instead of getting the Defog off. I personally don't necessarily agree with that value judgment. And you can see why here. Like this, it's an Assault Vest Glastrier, like max HP Spadef. But it's really, it can't wall stuff if it has to come in and take 25% every time.
Yeah, and then dealing out damage to Vaporeon's fine, but Wish Protect sets, this point Firebolt should have probably predicted the Protect coming after the Wish. Sleepy Bird.
And here he gets Cramorant back in. It's a very passive, matchup here. Smart of Mass actually to immediately double out, even though he wasn't going to reap any benefits from the Wish. It was just like, well, I just don't want to stay in on this thing. But Firebolt also smartly gets to burn some Cramorant rest turns.
Yeah.
That raw thunder.
Yeah, kind of crazy.
Echoes of Jason.
Hey, sometimes you just got to go for it.
Yep.
Nice special defense drop on Vaporeon as well, by the way. Celesteela coming back out, probably with some sort of grass move, I imagine.
Yeah, it gets Giga Drain, it gets Seed Bomb. You see Seed Bomb right there. Firebolt's Cramorant wakes up and gets the Defog, which is huge, massively important for Firebolt. At this point, Alolan Raichu comes in, and Firebolt does what I, at the time, was relatively skeptical about. I thought it was kind of a weird play, because the Volt Switch kind of forces Sacks when it's pretty obvious that your Raichu is Sash. So he basically donates 2 Pokemon to Celesteela just to maintain the Sash on his Alolan Raichu.
Yeah.
But then, he does come back in, and it's like, well, nothing really loves to switch in on this thing. And here's game base 110. Mass wins the speed tie, crits the Shadow Ball, triggers Sash,
gets the special defense drop, and then dies to Psychic.
And as it turns out, that wasn't a speed tie. He was Scarf Gengar. So holding onto the Sash actually very beneficial to Firebolt in that instance. Mass getting hella greedy, but Firebolt also equally getting greedy, going hard in, but it could have just gotten smoked by like a random, special move when it's not Mega Evolved. But it pans out. He also Dragon Dances up in front of Vaporeon. Its leftovers just to barely save it from getting killed here. The toxic damage otherwise would have brought it into range.
Yeah.
And now at this point, Firebolt's got 2 Pokemon that can both beat Amoonguss, and it's just Amoonguss.
Yep. Pushing the Raichu to take a Spore to the face, by the way, to prevent Turtonator from sleeping. Because that could have been a bit rough for Firebolt there.
Very clever, and it does the best possible play he could there and gets off the Toxic. But then he Spores.
I don't know why.
Which, yeah, just there was no scenario where that Spore was ever going to work.
Yep.
I actually do think if he was running Leech Seed and had it, and it was like Leech Seed and Protect, there was a possibility that Mass could have won this. He would have had to get perfect luck, and I think had to have played perfectly, and it may still not have ended up panning out, because, you know, like Raichu could have like turned one Woken or whatever, but yeah, it was like Flamethrower was doing just over half, but like Leftovers damage plus, or Leftovers healing plus Leech Seed might have been like barely enough to get you to stall out if you can get some double protects against the Turtonator, and then you just have to hit the the Raichu one time. So was still possible for Mass ultimately, but this time no speed ties, no bullshit. Firebolt, I would say, relatively cleanly takes him out in a 2-0 victory.
Yeah, for sure. And what a match it was. Speaking of what a match it was, Woody, the Schaumburg Salamences, if you want to introduce this.
Man, you know what? You got so excited? Why don't you do it?
Oh, no, I did one half. You get the other half.
No, I insist. You got to introduce it now.
Well, all right then. And Aurora of the Hoensbroek Hunters are fighting each other in this match.
Right. What's Woody's storyline this season?
Well, he's drafted what a lot of people have been saying is kind of a scarier team than usual for him. He has so far had a very clean record.
Yeah, perfect. It's pristine, in fact. So Woody has yet to kill a Pokemon.
Yeah.
At all. But hilariously, darkly, tragically, weirdly, bizarrely, Aurora also 0-2.
Yeah. Someone's coming out with their first win in this match.
That's true. Always exciting, you know? But obviously, even though Aurora has dropped now to Whiteloaf and Vincent, those are two very strong players. Woody respectfully coming into this match at 0-2 minus 12, the worst possible record you can have coming into the match, and Aurora obviously having a massively long list of accolades in Double Dip. This feels like it could be a real blowout. But on the other side, maybe this is Woody's opportunity to just find a win on maybe a withered Aurora.
Yeah, I'm certain we'll see that. Let's go ahead and get started.
Let's have a look, man. Let's have a look.
See how the story plays out today. Starting off, Claydol, probably going to set up rocks, but too scared of this Starmie, tracing Natural Cure.
Yeah, and smart of Aurora to just hit the serve, don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Hilariously here, actually, the Porygon traces Natural Cure, so the Toxic is worthless.
Yeah.
It gets like a little bit of chip, but Bronzong genuinely a good switch in here, but Aurora, smartly, as ever, U-turns out, gets the pivot.
Yeah, unfortunately, Woody clicking Trick with a Mental Herb and getting Lefties, I believe, or Expert Belt.
Yeah, he took her Expert Belt.
And that's kind of a shame because, honestly, if it was Scarfed, it would have been stuck in Swords Dance. And,
yeah.
That would have done wonders, I think, for Woody, especially with the Trick Room set he kind of had there, right?
Yeah, think about Woody. In this scenario, this was not a lost game because Charizard does force this thing out. It can be faster. It'll live and knock, and there's no Earthquake. It's a dual dance thing, so it's not faster anymore. But if it doesn't Mega Evolve, then it's immune to Earthquake and it doesn't take increased knock damage. It can live a hit and kill back.
Yeah.
So Aurora, in an effort to preserve her differential, because at this point he's already sacked so many Pokemon, she's probably got the win either way.
Yeah.
But suddenly she also reveals her one last funny little trick, which is she is running the item Metronome, so that the Surf will eventually tick over and do enough damage to one-shot Megazord X, which it otherwise would not be able to do.
Yeah. And running Metronome, kind of crazy. Very fun, though.
Yeah. Not the first time we've seen a Metronome in Double Dip. I actually used it myself, I think 2 seasons ago.
Yes, you had your Porygon Z at that point.
Yeah. And it works. I mean, it's a little bit of a gimmick, but I think that there's genuinely scenarios, and certainly in draft, where you can, predict what's going to happen or what you're going to have to fight. If the calc is like, oh, hold on, I just have to hit 2 surfs in a row before my metronome takes me up over where I need to be, and then I don't have to choice lock into specs, and, Woody has so many, bulky, slow Pokemon that can't really, easily kill Starmie. It was good. It was good team building. I don't think it was a gimmick. It was obviously still pretty cool.
Yep.
And obviously panned out quite well for her. But, I'm a fan of the metronome. I think it's a legitimate option.
Yeah. Woody's at minus 18 now.
Yeah, Woody got 6-0'd again.
Yeah. Woody, you'll get a kill next week. You keep going, buddy. You got this.
Yeah, 0-3, minus 18. He's got Doodled up next. We'll see if if the carnage continues. I actually do think Doodled, because Doodled 6-0'd Lynn. So he's capable of doing it.
Yeah, well,
you have to feel bad for Woody, man. It's that's tough,
tough.
for anyone.
You mentioned
But
Doodle,
hey,
though.
We've got interesting stuff though. So let's talk about what I think may have been the match of the week. I was a big fan of Masters Firebolt, but this one I felt like was very interesting. It wasn't that interesting on paper. It was Vincent, coach of the Heerlen Hawluchas, versus Doodled, the coach of the Jobbin Wobbuffets. Doodled coming off of a pretty tragic slim loss to Mass last week, and Vincent looking unstoppable going into week 3. Just blowing through, his opponents up to this point. In a show very reminiscent of last season, where he looked equally as strong. So Doodled is really good. He's already immediately showing a ton of promise, and he's a grinder. He's put in a lot of effort, kind of similar to the way that Lovin did, or maybe Firebolt maybe used to when he was new, and that was the thing that sort of separated him. Doodled is just a player who I think has a good innate game sense, but generally is willing to put the time into practice. Mm-hmm. It has a willingness to spend time running scrims and calculating every move and things like that, which is very important.
Yeah, definitely is. And their team lineup is very scary here, actually. Just looking at both ends of this, Dragapult doing an insane amount of damage to a lot of Vincent's team, actually. Archeop's also coming in, just outright killing Moltres and Zeraora in his own.
That's actually something we should touch on real quick. Archeops is a new addition to Doodle's team, being a
first
trade.
Ever?
Yeah. That genuinely in all of Double Dip, no 2 players have traded. We've done free agents before, but Doodled and Nihilus of the Dallas Ducklets from the Platinum Division swapped Pangoro for Archeops. So now Nihilus has Pangoro, Doodled has Archeops, and actually both of them came game 1 that they were available. So I think it's cool, man. It's a nice mutual trade. And Archeop's looking very scary. Looks like it can definitely put some pressure on this team. Depending on the set, it can threaten out Moltres. It can be slightly intimidating to get good chip on Zamazenta if it's a scarf set. If it's Sash, it can sort of scare out a non-volt switching Zeraora. Can scare out. Again, it mostly has to be Scarf to do well, but a Scarf one, man, look at how much damage it does to this whole team. I mean, Frostlass, Mr. Mime, Sceptile,
Zeraora,
Moltres, all 4 of them are weak to a stab.
Yeah.
And then you obviously have Zamazenta and Zeraora, which don't appreciate an Earthquake.
Yeah, they definitely do not. And speaking of Earthquake stuff, Donphan's also up there, as well as Mandibuzz. And of course, Zamazenta Crown on Vince's team being absolutely insane. And I don't know, is he going to be here next season?
I doubt it. I mean, well, it actually depends on what's in the Paldea Dex, I think, is the region.
Right, yeah, that comes out another month or 2 from now.
Yeah, that comes out in November. It's September currently, so it's coming out in 2 months.
Yeah.
But I guess all of that is to say, Vincent looking unstoppable. Doodled showing a little bit of weakness last week, but still had a relatively strong opener to his season, I would say. So let's have a look and see how it panned out. Mr. Mime lead, Archeops lead. To the uninitiated, this may have just been whatever, but they're both scarfed. Vincent has essentially revealed Scarf to Doodled there. And then Doodle has some good fortune here. Psychic crit makes it kill. Psychic otherwise would have done probably in the ballpark of 50 to 75, so it would have been a 2-shot. And I don't believe Moltres could have killed back, but just, probably would have U-turned, gotten some momentum. And speaking of U-turning for momentum, Doodled a natural at doing that.
Great sturdy. Stone Edge unfortunately missing such a lot. Cut Zap, so cool though.
Yeah, Cut Zap Berry, if you're not familiar, is a berry that makes your next move at 25% or below HP one-shot, or rather get priority.
Yeah. I started doing a ton of damage to Sceptile. However, Vincent, had he gone and Mega Evolved, which I believe was the intention when this fight was happening, likely would have just died to an Ice Shard right there. 4 times weakness. Would have been crazy if Doodle had gotten that off. Another unfortunate miss on
Very
Doodle's
unfortunate,
part.
yeah. Again, that Fire Blast was really important. If the Fire Blast hit, that made Dragapult Flamethrower so much scarier. This defense drop also a bit troublesome for Doodled. Makes it harder for him to stay in on this physical Frostlass to kind of force it out. It doesn't end up being too relevant, but just kind of, it's crazy the luck back to back. And, I would never want to underplay or fail to highlight, Vincent's obvious raw skill at the game, but he's gotten a lot of very favorable instances of luck these last 3 weeks. He dodged Woody Stone Edge on Moltres to preserve his 6-0. He got the defense drop here on Marini, in addition to dodging the Fire Blast, and then of course week 1 having dodged 2 of Aurora's Focus Blast to get the game win. It's just things are coming up Vincent right now.
Yeah, definitely are. And at this point, Doodle does not have much momentum to work off of to be able to take care of these Pokemon. Using Whirlwind to bring back this thing, and of course Scarfed Ice Beam just at this point just sweeps.
Yeah. It actually barely manages not to kill this.
Not sure
and
if that's
dies to a Shadow Ball return. Maybe.
And of course, Vincent having to Mega Evolve in order to outspeed, because Mega Evolve, Sceptile has an additional 6 speed over Dragapult.
It's ridiculous. It's so crazy. Yeah. So maybe in hindsight, Scarf Dragapult could have been better. But that's, again, it's the kind of thing that you don't really know for sure until you're in it, right? There's a lot of reasons you might not want to run Scarf Dragapult.
Oh yeah, having the move variety is nice. There's other things that you could just hit with, Mr. Mime for a ghost attack if you want to, or even, well, I guess you'd still use Flamethrower. Oh, no, you get Stab actually with Shadow Ball. So.
Yeah, I mean, well, you get Stab with Shadow Ball. Flamethrower is still a little better just because it's the super effective is better than the Stab. Yeah. When they're of a roughly equal base power, and Flamethrower is even higher base power, so it's just going to do well anyway versus Zamazenta. But if it was a scenario where it was Scarf, Flamethrower, Dragapult, Doodled had hit the Fire Blast versus Zamazenta, could have been looking at a Doodled win.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
As it stands, Vincent 3-0, man.
No, especially because this could have potentially died to the Dawn fan earlier, and that could have really changed the... And that Fire Blast hitting here, could have made a big difference, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think the quote-unquote, misplay of not Mega Evolving Sceptile, you get to earn that. I think retroactively you could just be like, you know what, I'll take that. You know what, that's smart. That's a button I didn't hit that ended up panning out. Kind of the same situation that's weird as Woody, where that not having to Mega Evolve the first turn it's out made a big difference in the match. Yeah. This is in contrast to the Draft League NL World Championship Qualification Tour, where that rule was not enforced, and it was instead the opposite, where you did have to Mega Evolve turn 1. And this is some scenarios where that would have mattered, right? Having the damage from Ice Shard, or, not taking Earthquake from Dual Dance Landers. There are these micro situations where maybe I don't want to Mega Evolve right now. And it's just interesting to see.
That's what's really fun about this. There's a lot of diversity and just ways to play because of some of the rules we have here in Double Dip. Speaking of diversity, rules, and fun in Double Dip, we got our next 2 teams with a diverse set of Pokemon on them.
Yeah?
Yeah, we got Nick of the Loafville Lanturns, and we got Lynn of the Pinkan Persians.
Pinkan Persians. So Lynn,
segues?
fresh off. Yeah, I did like your segue. I like how you did 3 of the intros, and I only did 1.
Oh, sorry, do you want to do this one?
Yeah, redo! Hey, we've got Lynn of the Pinkan Persians versus White Loaf of the Loafville Lanturns. This is the last match of the Pearl Division for Week 3, and it was an interesting one. White Loaf coming off of a Week 1 loss to Firebolt, which was then, I think, massively overshadowed by a huge upset victory over Aurora Week 2, putting Nick at a clean 1. Whereas Lynn lost to Doodled 6-0 Week 1, then managed to beat Firebolt Week 2. So she beat Firebolt, Firebolt beat Nick beat Aurora. I don't know, it was like weirdly circular. Firebolt did not beat Aurora, that's not true.
Vincent beat Aurora, sorry.
Yeah, Vincent and Nick are the two people who've beaten Aurora thus far, so... just kind of interesting. You're already starting to see the interplay of the Pearl Division being like, oh, I beat a guy who beat a guy who beat a guy who beat me, right? Mm-hmm. It's very circular, it's very interesting, there's a lot of kind of more even records, but just looking at this, off rip on the opener, Lynn versus Nick, it's kind of hard to tell, but I would say coming off of the bigger win is Nick off of Aurora, but obviously Nick losing to Firebolt, Lynn beating Firebolt, I think there's something to say about Lynn there that's important,
Yeah, definitely is. Oh, with that being said, let's go ahead and watch this final match.
Sure, let's get on into it. Off rip, Reggie Lucky looks super scary, but obviously Chansey can deal and Rillaboom can deal.
Yep. Speaking of Rillaboom, here is taking a close combat to the face. Sash Lucario making a big difference here.
Yep. I did like the Brick Break tech, actually. That's good for dealing with, like, Reggie Lucky, screens.
Yep. But what about Leavanny screens?
Leavanny screens is a little less orthodox and also on as the Brick Breaker, but hey.
Yeah.
You love to see it. Leavanny's actually, I think, a huge value pick for picking it up myself.
Yeah.
During drafting, and it's pretty good, man. It's fast, it can hit decently hard, it's got access to Sticky Web and screens, so got stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a reason why Druddigon is a good rocker, because Rocky Helmet plus Rough Skin punishes Rapid Spin so hard. And then Firebolt, or not Firebolt, excuse me. I'm
you all right
I'm
today?
spacing, I got the papers. Yeah, it's alright, it's okay. Nick being faster than Lynn, obviously can't just keep Stealth Rocks anymore, so Dragon Tail eventually does proc Flame Body, and Lynn unfortunately just taking a ton of accumulated damage from the rocks.
Yeah. Nick's just playing it safe and staying in. He doesn't need to hit him hard, he just needs to keep switching him out, but of course Nidoqueen comes out with an Ice Beam and Sludge Wave and just starts decking those poor Eggman over here.
Well, I wouldn't feel too bad for Eggman. Eggman is taking it like an absolute champion.
Eggman using egg boil technique.
It's actually interesting when we were watching these sets kind of in preparation, we were thinking, a mixed set on Nidoqueen and a mixed set on Lucario actually could have done really well. You could hit things like Rillaboom on the special side, and then obviously Chansey being a special wall you can hit on the physical side. And both of those Pokemon can do it really well.
Yeah, they definitely can. There's some good move variety they both have. And speaking of move variety, here comes Lucario. Nick, of course, switching out, bringing back Leavanny. Only doing 31 on a close combat.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Reflect goes up, Meteor Mash just barely doesn't kill, but Lynn gets the Bullet Punch off anyway. And here comes Turtle Club, and this thing is so terrifying.
Yeah, it is.
After a smell shaft.
God,
all right, you take it. I can't do it.
After doing a smell, oh no!
Oh, you can't either.
After one
Reggie
shell
Lucky.
smash, this thing goes crazy. By the way, killing Reggie Lucky, killing Lucario, doing almost 100% damage to the Spoony Barb. But
yeah, Alakazam probably Sash, so it didn't necessarily matter. But that's good for Nick, because I think the idea was just to break Sash so that now Banded Rillaboom can come in and clean.
Yeah.
Which it then goes on to do.
Yep. Grassy Glide coming in, just wiping the floor with everything else that's left.
Yeah, sometimes you might pass over Rillaboom as a tier 1 and be like, yeah, I kind of want my crazy Uber, but Banded Grassy Glide, when you don't have the resists, man, kind of scary.
Yeah, kind of scary. And with that, the victory goes to Nick, getting a clean 4-0.
Strong 4-0.
Yeah.
Genuinely, Nick did a great job. I think Lynn put up a solid fight, but she said, she DM'd me after the fact, she had a hard time getting prepped for it. Her kind of head wasn't in the game this week, so, it is what it is, but huge for Nick, turning that 0-1 from week 1 into now a 2-1, looking very strong, especially, picking up wins on Aurora and Lynn. Nick putting himself very squarely back in contention, not just for playoffs qualification, but maybe nipping at Vincent's heels a little bit.
Maybe, but we're not going to find out and know fully until we talk about the rankings and where everyone's sitting.
Then let's do it. Why don't you introduce me to the top 4?
I see how it is. And I will. So we have at the very top is Vincent of the Heerlen Hawluchas at 3-0 plus 10 this week. Kind of crazy, but at the same time, one of the lower end 3-0 teams compared to the rest of the divisions.
That's true. The differentials are very skewed right now.
Yeah, we'll go over all those in a bit. So Firebolt's in second at a 2-1 plus 5, followed up by Mass at a 2-1 plus 5. That's funny. In fourth, we have Nick at a 2-1 plus 1.
Bringing up the top of the bottom, we have got Doodle of the Jobbin Wobbuffets at 1-2 and plus 3. Aurora of the Hoensbroek Hunters at 1-2 and plus 2. Lynn of the Pinkan Persians at 1-2, and I think that's minus 8?
It is minus 8.
And then we've got in last place Schaumburg Salamences GTP Woody at 0-3 and minus 18.
Yeah, kind of crazy. Diamond Division and Pearl Division, there are 5 people at 2-1 plus 5 right now.
That's funny. So strange. There's a lot of interesting patterns when you look at the divisions across the board, but what I think is so interesting is Pearl is competitive all the way down to 7th place.
Yeah, because sure, you can break it up at 6, where Aurora's at 1-2 at a plus 2, and then Lynn being at 1-2 minus 8. Huge differential difference, but nothing that Lynn can't come back from. Minus 8, I think if you're under minus 10 at week 3 still, there's still
hard.
There's still some ways to come back from that. It's hard, but you can do it.
Yeah. What I think is really interesting is if you look at the difference between Firebolt and Lynn, which is our current 2nd, our current 7th, that's 1 win and 13 differential.
Yeah.
That's really not that much. For 2nd place to 7th place?
Yeah.
That's a narrow division.
Diamond Division, by the way, go check out that companion video so you get all the full details of who's in what position for there. But for instance, over there, 2nd place is 3-0 plus 11, with 7th place at 0-3 minus 13.
Yeah, it's a lot more lopsided. So Pearl, very competitive. I still couldn't tell you who the top 4 advancing are.
Yeah, it's very much up in the air for Pearl Division.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited to see where week 4 takes us. I think week 4, we're really going to start seeing those drop-offs. I don't know about Pearl for sure. The other divisions, I think we're likely going to have more definitive who's in, who's not. But we'll start seeing some shapes, I think, come out of Pearl Division with week 4 coming up here pretty soon.
Yeah, I think it's really, to me, Pearl is the division to keep your eye on. If you want one that's just pick a player and start rooting because you just don't know who's making it, I think it's Pearl Division that you got to watch.
I'm having fun watching the Meat Grinder Division, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, on that note, thank you all.
More fun to watch than to play, I think.
Thank
you so much for joining us. As Cabral said before, please check out the 2 companion videos to this one where you can join Cabral and Aurora in recapping the Platinum Division.
Yep.
And you can join myself and Kenneth covering the Diamond Division.
Yeah, but stay tuned and keep an eye out for the upcoming matches. Week 4, I think, is going to have some spicy matches come up that are going to be fun and really going to shift the balance of power.
Mm-hmm.
But thank
Gonna look great. Can't wait to see you there.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the season, and we'll see you next week.
So fun.
So fun.